let's talk about the primary in New Hampshire. The battle is increasingly looking like the last chance to stop Donald J. Trump. All eyes are on Nikki Haley, who is banking on anti-Trump voters within the Republican camp. Before we get into the politics of it, let me tell you how the day is looking like. Polling has already begun in several locations in New Hampshire. Reports suggest that as many as 300,000 people could participate in the nation's first primary. Now, voters in the tiny community of Dixville Notch were first to cast their ballots at midnight. It is a tradition that began back in 1960s.
And this comes down to, what do you want? Do you want more of the same, or do you want something new? And what the people of New Hampshire should know is, when we win the presidency in this country, I will do everything I can to prove to you that you made the right decision. But for now, I'll leave you with this. May the best one win.
You got a lot of Democrats voting for her. You have a crazy election. Let's all get out and let's vote for somebody that we want to run against. They want to run against because she's so easy to beat. If you look at the polls, Biden beats her by a lot. We cannot have that.
Now, VOA correspondent Caroline Presutti gets us more from Ground Zero in New Hampshire.
Right in, Biden! Right in, Biden!
Not what you'd expect to hear hours before a presidential primary. But this is the quirky state of New Hampshire, where President Joe Biden is not on Tuesday's ballot, a move by national Democratic leaders which some consider a snub.
People said, we're going to put that aside and we're going to support Joe Biden because we all know Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And the most important thing we can do to save democracy is to stop Donald Trump.
This is from 1992 convention.
Ray Buckley chairs the New Hampshire Democratic Party. But on Tuesday, Biden will not get his vote.
Since my election as chair, I've written in Jimmy Carter every single time to show that I am completely unbiased.
Buckley has voted for Democratic incumbent presidents in the past, but this time
we were in shock and stunned.
The Democratic National Committee demoted New Hampshire from its historic spot as the first state primary in favor of South Carolina, with its more diverse voters. Angry state party officials scheduled the primary anyway.
We are going to the polls on Tuesday.
And Biden supporters began a write-in campaign. On the Republican side, a different kind of drama. In a windy minus 10 degrees Celsius, this is the line 4 hours before a Donald Trump event.
We love the Trumpster. He fights for us.
How many wars did we have when he was president? Everybody was happy. Everybody was making money.
Former President Trump is pulling in crowds to his rally. He is polling at just over 50% of likely Republican voters here. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is at 35% in a recent Boston Globe poll.
She needs to sway me, so I'm open-minded to whatever it is she has to say.
Like Denise Montminy, many in line to see Haley are independents or Democrats who can vote on a Republican ballot here.
I'd like to hear a little less war hawkish rhetoric from her in terms of her stance on Ukraine and Israel-Palestine conflict.
Analysts say New Hampshire Republicans who are fiscal conservatives interested in lower taxes and smaller government could be Haley's last chance to stop Trump.
If she can't in a state that is tailor-made for that, I think it's fair to ask, well, what is the next step? What is the state where she will have another chance to beat Trump? And the number of states I can come up with is a very, very, very short one.
On Tuesday night, we find out whether New Hampshire voters offer any surprises. Caroline Presutti, VOA News, Manchester, New Hampshire.
And to decode this further, we are being joined by VOA correspondent Chris Cascao, live from New Hampshire. Chris, welcome to the broadcast here. All right, we know that Ron DeSantis has quit the race. What kind of an impact do you think that could have in New Hampshire?
Well, good morning from New Hampshire. It's about 9:30. The polls have been open for 3.5 hours, and they'll be open till about 7 p.m. local time. Now, DeSantis dropping out of the race was widely expected. He was not expected to compete here in New Hampshire. He's been polling in the single digits, and he was behind Trump by 30 points in Iowa. So he was widely expected to drop out. So this is really no big surprise. Now, Trump said he expects DeSantis' supporters to move over to him and vote for him today in New Hampshire because DeSantis endorsed the former President Donald Trump when he dropped out of the race over the weekend. Now, Nikki Haley is positioning herself as the candidate who is not going to bring chaos to the White House. She characterizes the Trump administration, and she served in the Trump administration as the UN ambassador, as an administration that was just filled with chaos daily. So she's positioning herself as the more calm and reasonable alternative to voters here in New Hampshire.
Absolutely, there is very pointed positioning from Nikki Haley, but Nikki Haley is the only alternative to Donald Trump as of now, what we are seeing. In fact, in the package that we got from VOA as well, the correspondent spoke to two voters, and the two voters were actually very open. They were independents, and they were very open that if Nikki Haley gives us something that we can actually eye for, then definitely we will vote for her. So what is that thing that she's bringing on the table?
Well, that is the hallmark of the electorate here in New Hampshire. It's a very independent electorate. 40% of the voters here are undeclared, which means that they are able to vote in the Republican primary today if they choose to. Now, Nikki Haley's pitch is that she is the Republican candidate who can beat Joe Biden in a head-to-head general election in November, even though Trump said in that piece that you saw that Haley is behind Biden. That really isn't the case. She's actually beating Biden in most of the polls that we have seen. And Trump and Biden are neck and neck, or in some cases, Trump has a small lead, but it's within the margin of error. Now, Haley does really well with independents here in New Hampshire. 58% in a recent CNN New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire poll said that they plan to vote for Haley today. But we'll see if those numbers bear out and they're able to close the gap between her and Donald Trump, because as we've seen, it's anywhere from between 10 to 15 points in the most recent polling.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for getting us all those updates from New Hampshire.